Hi guys, welcome back to my latest video. Today I'm talking UV units for ponds. So I'm going to look specifically at the difference between a UV clarifier and a UV steriliser. I'm going to go into a little bit of the detail about how they work and what exactly you can expect from a clarifier and from a steriliser. This has come about really because I see so much confusion, so many myths and misinformation about this whole subject. And I'll be honest, a lot of it comes from the manufacturers and the decoy dealers themselves. Predominantly the manufacturers, I must say, whether it's deliberate or it's just, I don't know. But there is a lot of vagueness in the descriptions of these units. There's a lot of exaggeration about what they're capable of. There's a lot of clever little wording things that suggest one unit is something else that it isn't. So yeah, I would just want to clear up all that, so make sure you get, you know what you want, what you need, and that you get the right unit, and you don't pay too much for it, basically. So just to qualify, I did 15 years as a research scientist in semiconductor photocatalysis. So predominantly working on coatings that were semiconductor coatings for self-cleaning glass that are activated in the UV wavelength. So I know a bit about UV light. So firstly, I just want to very quickly talk about why you need a UV light on your pond. Predominantly they're used to clear green water, or to stop the water turning green. The water in your pond becomes green due to tiny organisms, single-celled organisms, unicellular. So the very smallest form of life, a single cell, these guys are made up of. They're green in colour. They're very, very tiny, and when you have just a few dotted about in water, you wouldn't see them. Now these guys multiply extremely quickly. They use phosphate and nitrate in your pond water as a food source. They multiply massively quickly, very, very quickly, become from dozens to many millions and billions. And when the numbers increase and they become more and more dense in your water, eventually you can see you see them in the form of green in your water. So UV clarifier, UV steriliser, two basic types of unit that you can use on your pond. UV clarifier first. As the name suggests, it clarifies, it clears the water of the green colour, and the way it does that is it provides a source of UV light in the UVA region of the light spectrum. So UVA is relatively weak UV light, and it doesn't kill anything. It's not powerful. It's not strong enough to kill living things. Now instead, what it does is it causes something called flocculation. So if you imagine you've got lots of these single cells floating about in your water. The water, it passes by the UV light. The UV light source shines into the water, hits the cells, and it causes them to flocculate. And what that means is two cells bobbing about come together and stick together. That's flocculation. Now, as the water passes continuously through your UV light source, this is many passes through. It's not a one hit fix. It needs to continuously pass through your UV light, continually causing flocculation as it goes. So two come together and form double in size, and then more join and more join and more join, and basically that little clump of single cells grows bigger and bigger and bigger over time, until it gets to a point where it's large, physically large enough that your mechanical filtration can catch it. So it no longer passes through your mechanical filter, be it a drum or a sieve, whatever it is. It grows until it's big enough that your mechanical filtration catches it. It takes it out, you flush it away to waste, and eventually your water becomes clear. That's our UV clarifier in the UVA area of the spectrum, clears your water. Now, the second type of unit that I talked about there, what I'll say just before I go off that, a UV clarifier is the cheaper units, you know, 100 quid, 150 pound kind of range. They probably make up 99+% of the UV units on people's ponds. Most of them are clarifiers. The second unit that we talked about, the second type, is a UV steriliser. Now, a steriliser, as the name suggests, rather than clarifying the water, is now designed to sort of sterilise the water. There's an implication anyway that it sterilises. Now, the main difference between a clarifier and a steriliser is that the light source in the steriliser is a much stronger, much more powerful UV. It's in a different portion of the light spectrum, and this is now operating in the UVC area of the spectrum. Now, UVC is much more powerful. As I say, it's much more dangerous. Now, this is the stuff that the ozone layer above us filters out, because if it was able to come, you know, to reach the earth, it would be harmful for us. So this is the one that we rely on the ozone layer filtering out. UVC does have sterilising properties, some antibacterial. It will kill some bacteria, and this is basically the premise that UV sterilisers are sold under, and these cost probably 3 times the price of a clarifier on average, so a much higher expense, because generating light in this range is much more difficult. It's a much more expensive piece of equipment to do it, and on paper that is true, there's no denying, and that is obviously a good thing. In reality, bacteria in your pond predominantly live on surfaces, and certainly parasites on your koi, as the name suggests, need a host to survive, so they're on the fish. As such, little to no bacteria, and certainly no parasites, pass through the UV light source and don't come into contact with the UVC light, and as such, in practice, they're not especially effective, let's say. In terms of the kind of vagueness that I mentioned, manufacturers have a few little tricks up their sleeve. One of them is they like to call a UV clarifier a UVC. Now, if you remember, the steriliser is the one that operates in the UVC wavelength, but manufacturers cleverly sell a clarifier and like to throw in the term UVC and abbreviate it with a dash in the same way that it is in the wavelength form, causing confusion, let's say. Whether that's intentional or not is for debate, but they like to market a clarifier as being UVC, when in fact it isn't UVC, it's only UVA. So you can see there's vagueness there, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of regulation or control over what people say when they in the marketing blurb for these units. That one, you could say, well, is that intentional or not? It's a grey area, but to be honest, a lot of them just barefaced tell lies. A lot of the clarifiers claim that they kill bacteria. They blatantly say they operate in the UVC range of the spectrum when they don't. There's massive vagueness. It really does annoy me a lot when I read some of the sales blurb linked with clarifiers. So yeah, do be careful with what you're buying. If you're paying £150, you're getting a clarifier. £300 plus, you would hope and you would be expecting to get a steriliser. As I say, in terms of whether it's worth paying the extra money for a steriliser, personally not for me. I certainly wouldn't simply because it's a lot of money to me, and I don't see any real perceived benefit, any real benefit. To be honest, as I say, the bacteria isn't finding its way into that unit, so not for me. On the flip side of that, clearly the steriliser, which also causes the same flocculation as the clarifier, so it clears green water as well, but the steriliser clearly does have that potential. So if money isn't too much of an issue for you, certainly the steriliser is a better unit and can only be an improvement on a clarifier. Whether in real life that is you see any benefit, I don't know, but as I say, it all, as with everything, it kind of comes down to money. So they're the key differences. Hopefully that's of some help to people. I talked a little on nitrate, just touched on nitrate and phosphate. I do have videos up on each of those to go into those in much more detail if you want to try and address the green water at source. So remove the nitrate, remove the phosphate, you take away the food source for the single-celled algae, stop them growing in the first place. So do check those out if that's of any interest to you. As always, please do, if it's been useful, hit the like button. It makes a massive difference to me. Please do subscribe to the channel, and until the next video, do take care. If you have any comments or any questions, please do put them down in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.